Hey, and welcome to another episode of Geeks Corner. And first up today, we've got a lot of Apple news. Apple has agreed to notify UK consumers if an iOS update is going to slow down their device. Now, it's been over a year since this first came out that Apple was slowing down devices older. They say it was to preserve the performance as the battery actually got worse and degraded, and they actually run a battery replacement up until the end of last year, where you could get a £29 replacement on a battery on there. Now that has ended, but obviously prices have gone up a little bit, but they are still quite cheap, better than getting a new iPhone on there. So what they have agreed is to ensure they apply with the consumer law in the UK, they are going to notify the users of that update. So it'll be interesting to see how they're going to do it. But yeah, it's definitely a step forward in the right direction on there for definite. Now, Apple again has also put on a few new devices into an Eurasian Economic Commissioner regulated database, and this is reported by 9to5Mac. They've actually got a total of 11 model numbers out there. We saw a similar last year when they were getting ready to release new iPhone numbers. So the 2019 iPhones have just appeared in the database with the models numbers A2111, A2160, A2161, A2215, A2216, A2217, A2218, and then there's also goes on to 1920, 21, and 23. So there are a couple of numbers obviously missed out in there. So it's interesting to see that that's on there. In January, the iPad Air and the iPad Mini 5 were also registered a few months ahead of the official launch. So it's interesting to see that Apple are obviously getting those up there. So they are going to obviously get the certification that they need. So it just goes to show that the rumours of new camera could also be true as well, along on these new iPhones. Now, personally, I'm not a big fan of the look of the new camera module on the back. Let me know what you guys think. And we're just sticking with Apple in the news at the moment. An engineer student who actually made 3,000 fraudulent iPhone warranty claims has entered a guilty plea in a US federal court. Now, we reported on this a while back that the former engineering student basically took non-functioning counterfeit iPhones and sent them back to Apple and received genuine ones in returns. And there was over 1,493 cases of this as well, and that's actually cost Apple close to $1 million. And obviously this does have a knock-on effect then for everybody concerned, because Apple need to make obviously their money back somewhere, and obviously eventually it's going to reflect in the prices that they do charge. So we're not really sure exactly what they did, but they made sure that the phones weren't able to function, so when they were checked, and obviously they were replaced then, probably there and then in the store. So obviously would have made quite a bit of money from there. So they were caught red-handed, but they have definitely pleaded guilty on that one. And in the news again, it's Facebook, but this time under the flag of Instagram. A security researcher has discovered a flaw in Instagram's website that has left user contact information exposed for months, and that's potentially a lot of nefarious actors created a database containing the phone numbers and email addresses of thousands of Instagram users on there. So it's definitely not good. Now, this is not the first time that Facebook has actually come up with this, and they seem to be in the news quite a lot for basic errors exposing user details. And so this is just another step again. It's sad really to see that they are still quite growing in popularity despite all the security breaches that they are making there. And in the news again is Huawei. It seems we can't really go without talking about these guys. And it is interesting to see things unfold almost on an hour-by-hour basis, really. But at the moment, Serbia Telecoms Minister says his country plans to implement several contracts with Huawei despite Google's decision to revoke the tech giant's Android license. Obviously, Huawei will then be looking at the moment of using Android's open source platform instead, so they're not going to be hindered, and they're certainly not going to go down without a fight on this one. And Huawei's also set up a Twitter handle called Huawei Facts, and on there then they're talking about the facts of what's going on, and they're saying that depending on how restrictive the sanctions are, the US could lose anything between 4.1 billion to 56.3 billion in export sales over 5 years. And like I said on our last podcast, we've actually got an article look a bit more in depth and a bit of an opinion piece on there as well. And while we are looking at other ways as well of getting apps onto their devices despite the sanctions, now there's been rumours that they are looking at third-party app stores as well. There are quite a few out there, obviously because Google uses Android operating system. They've got it open, so there's a lot more competition in there, and there are a lot of third-party app stores out there. Obviously, Microsoft tried something similar and failed, but this company could just be big enough to actually take on the tech giants. So it's interesting to see how this plays out and unfolds. Moving over now to Google, we all saw them unveil Google Duplex last year, where they actually had AI calling and making reservations. They've also then announced this time that they were rolling out to the web as well, so Google Duplex on the web. And speaking to the New York Times, Google has actually confirmed that around 15% of all duplex calls require human intervention at demand call center to resolve issues, and they put that down to the sheer volume of data that duplex requires, and so they do need human interaction. They've also gone on and confirmed that a quarter of all calls made actually start with a human rather than with a machine, so it's not quite true AI just yet. When they unveiled it, they didn't say anything about needing humans to interact and intervene, and so a lot of people thought it was all down to machine learning. So it is interesting to see that fact has actually come out, so the machines are not going to quite get us just yet. Let us know what you think of Google Duplex as well. If you have an Android device, do you use it? Do you find it useful as well? It is definitely interesting to see Google pushing the boundaries, and it's something I actually welcome as well. And now for something a little bit different, we've actually put out a YouTube video today on about a new application first on hands-on by the developer Casey Liss. Make sure you check that out. It is linked on our website as well, geekscorner.co.uk. I'm not going to go into too much about the application. I'll let you guys have a look at the video and let me know what you think as well. Also, let me know what you think of this podcast as well. We've actually got ourselves a new microphone rather than using the one that was built in for Anchor. So we've decided to try this to see if it sounds a little bit better. Let me know your thoughts as well. And by all means, drop us a comment. If you do use the Anchor app, you can actually send us voice messages as well. And if you have any questions, we'd be happy to take those and try and answer those as well. So thanks for listening, guys, and I'll catch you on the next one.